Gypsy's words, the two of them, were like a pair of shoes. Never good without the other. Some say her father, Rod Blanchard, while he paid child support, was prevented from staying in contact with his daughter. This is according to a crime and investigation article. So Dee Dee and her mother met with Miranda Lambert. They got free passes to Disneyland. I believe she also gave her $6,000. Miranda Lambert, I mean. When Gypsy was 14, they saw a Missouri neurologist who suspected Munchausen, but when asked later why he never reported, said he did not believe he had enough evidence at the time to come forward to the authorities. But in 2009, someone anonymously reported to authorities claiming Dee Dee's description of Gypsy's conditions bore no medical basis. Caseworkers came to the house to follow up on this claim, but nothing ever came of it. With time, Dee Dee altered the dates on Gypsy Rose's birth certificate, claiming she was younger than she actually was. So, March of 2008, Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose moved from Slidell, Louisiana to Aurora, Missouri. In 2005, they lived in a rental home until their Habitat Humanity home was built. Dee Dee had maintained that her daughter, Gypsy Rose's medical records were destroyed from Katrina, which was complete hogwash. She asserted that Gypsy Rose had various illnesses due to chromosomal defects, muscular dystrophy, epilepsy, various allergies, and asthma. So, February 2011, Gypsy tried to get away. She met a man at a science fiction convention that she had been speaking with online. She was 19 at this point, but her mom was claiming she was 15. The man she met at the convention was 35. She was able to get him to bring her to his hotel. Allegedly, Gypsy said that after this escape attempt, her mother destroyed her computer, phone, and physically tied her to the bed for several weeks. By 2012, she had somehow managed to gain access to the internet whenever Dee Dee was not paying attention when she would go to bed. This gave her the opportunity to meet Code John on a Christian dating site. Nicholas Code John was from Big Bend, Wisconsin, and supposedly on the autism spectrum, but that really doesn't mean anything. Like, I mean, in the sense of, like, doesn't really change anything in this story, okay? It's just a fact that I saw, okay? I mean, lots of people have autism. It's totally, totally normal. It doesn't punished her for the movie theater. In Gypsy's words, she got jealous because I was spending too much time and attention on him, and she had ordered me to stay away from him. There were weeks worth of arguments with yelling and throwing and name calling, things like bitch, slut, and whore added into the mix. She and Goat John began to hatch a plan to help Gypsy escape her mother, and Gypsy at this point did not see a way out of it aside from killing her mom. In her words, she says, "It was not because I hated her, it was because I wanted to escape." So Gypsy Rose and Goat John and Gypsy met on a Christian chat room. We talked about that. Gypsy shared with Goat John about how controlling her mom was. This is like, how it involves the psychological and the physical abuse, and when she realized her mom would not allow her to be with anyone, this led her to the plans they were making. That they were going to murder her mom so they could be together. They also had mention of some references to master-slave role in their relationship. Is that a BDSM thing? Anyways, he comes down to Missouri, gets himself a motel, and waits for the instructions from Gypsy. They waited for Dee Dee to fall asleep. Then Gypsy handed him a knife. As he was stabbing her brother to death, Gypsy was hiding in the bathroom with her hands over her ears. In her own words, she says, "I honestly thought you would end up not doing it." I heard her scream once, and there was more screaming, and she asked, "Who was it that was in the bedroom?" And she called out my name about 3 or 4 times. And at that point, I wanted to go help her so bad, but I was afraid to get up. It's like my body wouldn't move. Then everything just went quiet. Also, after killing her, he and Gypsy went off to her bedroom and had sex. And he asked Gypsy to patch up a wound on his finger. There was something odd about that, I guess, to them. And that was what turned them on to me. They want to have sex. I don't know. Weird, but okay. So they stayed in a motel in Springfield, Missouri. And they got a ride on a bus. And they went back to Big Bend, Wisconsin, June 14th. So Dee Dee Blanchard was discovered in June of 2015, stabbed to death in her back. There was a Facebook post that said that bee is dead, which led to the searches for Dee Dee. At first, investigators thought her daughter had been kidnapped and that the post was from her kidnapper. But after they tracked the IP address for the post, they were led to Wisconsin, and that's how they came across Gypsy Rose and her boyfriend, Goat John. Gypsy would go on to share later in an interview that she posted that online so her mom's body would be found, and that she could have a proper burial. The night it was posted, her body was found. Here's the follow-up post Gypsy and Goat John had left in hopes of getting the attention of authorities. "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. Lol." When speaking about his relationship with Gypsy, he said, "Those were probably the best days of my life. I enjoyed every second of it. From the beginning, I knew we were soulmates. Those 5 days I was physically with her were the most intense and magical and awe-inspiring days I ever had." It's kind of sad. Goat John and his evil side. He said that he had multiple personalities that were violent and scary. He thought he was a 500-year-old vampire named Victor. I'm sorry, it's hard to take this guy seriously. When Goat John was 18, he discovered his alternate personality. Gypsy Rose thought she was in love with his good side, like the devil and the angel on one's shoulders, so to speak. Before killing Dee Dee, he saw he had two options: take Gypsy Rose and run away, or murder Dee Dee. Devil in him saying this bitch is dead. Anger triggers his dark shadow part, and they start seeing red. While Go-chan was stabbing Dee Dee, she woke up and asked who he was, and he said, "I'm your epic nightmare." That's such a like 19-year-old thing to say, to say. Once police found Dee Dee and they obtained the IP address from the Facebook posts, they got in touch with the police in Go-chan's county in Wisconsin after they tracked them down. And they were going to raid his home and take the couple into police custody. They were then extradited from there back to Missouri. And they were held on $1 million bond. And Go-chan saying, "I would have done it again. I might have done it differently, but I would have done it again. I couldn't see Gypsy Rose suffer anymore." How noble. Gypsy Rose pled guilty to 2 second-degree murder, while Go-chan was convicted of first-degree murder, life in prison, without the possibility of parole. It's also interesting to note that when Gypsy Rose testified, she admitted it was her idea to kill her mother, but that Go-chan had told her he wanted to rape Dee Dee that night. He murdered her, and then Gypsy had offered to let him rape her instead of her mom. Their sentencing took place in 2016. While Go-chan is spending life in prison without the possibility of parole, his sentencing, Gypsy Rose is only spending 10 years in prison for second-degree murder, and as a pen pal she's engaged to. While in prison, Gypsy Rose had been severely malnourished before. Now she's started looking more her age and healthier. She began to gain weight. She began to thrive in comparison to how her life had been with Dee Dee. Gypsy explaining her powerlessness. "I couldn't just jump out of the wheelchair because I was afraid and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust." The control was total in the same sense that the control of a kidnapped victim sometimes is. Her daughter was in essence a hostage, and I think we can understand the crime that occurred subsequently in terms of a hostage trying to gain escape. Gypsy will be eligible for parole in 2024. Media on the case. The case is covered in the HBO documentary called Mommy, Dad, and Dearest, as well as the